Hello there, thank you for staying with us and welcome to Channels Beam on Channels Television. I'm Victor Mathias. Now, Nigeria's electoral system was put to test once again, this time on a state basis, as local governments and councillorship elections were held in Lagos and Ogun states. Now, the usual suspects reared their heads again during the process as voter apathy and election irregularities, as well as the state's ruling party sweeping almost all, if not all, available seats during the exercise was experienced. But today on the program, we will be looking at the effects of participating or neglecting grassroots elections. Plus, we will continue our focus on the use of technology to transmit results during elections. But before we go into that, let's take a listen to the findings of one of the observers of the concluded local government elections in Lagos.
Voter participation in these elections is abysmally low, as citizens showed lack of interest in the process. This presents a disturbing trend in a state like Lagos with 6,570,291 registered voters, and it poses a major challenge to the practice of democracy in the state and in Nigeria at large.
Reports from Badagry, Etiosa, Ikorodu, Kosofe, and Lagos Island LGA results collation centers revealed that the official results were either partially announced or not announced. Last year, officials in Lagos Island Collation Center did not conduct the results collation.
Well, there you go. That was the observation from Iaga Africa. But joining us to look at this, we'll have Sheun Awogbenle. He is a public policy analyst, and he's joining us via Zoom. He is a public policy analyst, like I said, an expert, and as well as an advocate for good governance and youth inclusion in politics. We also have with us in the studio Wande Adalemo. He is a serial entrepreneur and a wireless broadband professional with 17 years of hands-on experience. And of course, he joins us right here in the studio. Thanks again for joining us today on the program.
Thank you for having
But
me.
let's start with your experience during the elections in your area. How would you say the turnout was?
So it was lightly peaceful in my area, parts of Koshofe local government. But I think that is a function of advocacy before the elections. One of the things that happened in my community is community development is not left to politicians alone. I mean, it's community development. So everybody in the community
Has to play a
has
part.
to play a role, Although there were some skirmishes because certain parties said that their logos were not on the ballot papers. But aside from that, it was largely peaceful. And that was long before the elections. There have been consensus, conversations going on amongst all the contenders as to what is our goal before we go into any of this? What is the plan to develop this locality? What are we doing? So regardless of whoever emerges as the winner, there's a goal, there's a plan to that. So the entire community.
So it's like a community
It's a community plan, yes. So we know everybody who is a ward councillor. We know who the chairman is. We have conversations with them. What do you plan to do? Whether you are of any political affiliation, what is the plan? And these are the needs of this community. So whether you are neutral or you are affiliated to any political party, we know there's a plan for the community.
And you think that was responsible for the turnout?
That was responsible for the turnout because as early as 7:30, quite a number of people were already waiting for the materials to arrive in several of the wards in our area.
Okay. Let's quickly hear from Sheun Awogbenle, who is joining us again via Zoom. Sheun, so looking at your own area, I mean, we heard it from the observers, but what was the situation in your own area?
Well, the turnout was low. The participation was equally very, very low because quite a number of people already regarded the election as a fait accompli. People already thought that, there's already a decision before the decision are made. So it speaks about the lack of confidence in the, electoral process in Nigeria. And essentially, it starts with the fact that a lot of people believe that votes do not actually count. But I strongly believe that votes actually count. And as a matter of fact, it is actually the gap in the processes and the procedure, and also the gap in the participation that actually, give way for rigging an election. However, what we saw on Saturday was a situation in which a lot of people already, believed that, there's already a decision even before the election. So already most Lagosians see it as a fait accompli completely. And that's why, people were completely disenchanted and disoriented with the process because people felt, I mean, the decisions, perhaps that there's already a candidate even be, but that's also very erroneous. Aside from the fact that the political process does not inspire public confidence, it is also very, very erroneous, and it is also very counterproductive on the part of citizens. That most times we presume and we assume that there's already a decision before decisions are made. No, it's not. It's not all that straightforward. Most times, the absence and the lack of participation is what eventually results into the kind of choices that we now have, and that's also because we haven't come to realize the importance of importance of political, the outcome of political process and how they affect our lives. The day we begin to realize that
Yeah, let me
the
bring it from
outcome of
that
the political
perspective,
process.
Sharon. Let me sorry to cut you. Let me bring it from that perspective now, looking at how it is counterproductive for the citizenry and all of that. It seems that when it comes to local government elections and councillorship, I mean, there's always this message that it has to be from bottom up. But when it comes to the elections, from the grassroots, there's always this slow turnout. What is the effect of this? Again, like you said, is going to be counterproductive. How counterproductive would this low turnout in some places like yours be in the long run?
Oh, well, the implication is that for one, we haven't come to realize that most times change does not happen top to bottom. Most time, change is always bottom up, and that's the realization. The realization that a lot of people we haven't come to that reality as a people, that at the least, the primary units of leadership, of the political process in Nigeria is the ward level. You talk about the ward level, that's a polling unit where you have an aggregate of the ward level where you have an aggregate of polling units, and then before it begins to transcend into the representative council, the House of Assembly, and even the Senate and all of that. So we haven't come to realize how imperative the governors the governance at the grassroots is to our lives, and I think that's why a lot of people are a bit a bit laid back about the outcome, and that's also because it also brings us to the implication of not giving full autonomy to the local government administration. That's the third tier of government in Nigeria. For a long time, I mean, we also continue to clamor. The other day, I recall, signing what's it called, issuing a press release about the suspension of local government administration in virtually almost all the states. Most of the states that you find out that the governors, arbitrarily just appoint, tactical committees, as against what has
So
already
quickly,
been
quickly,
established.
quickly as we wind down. I mean, Wendy was talking about how his own community had to, rally around together, irrespective of political parties and political affiliations. Do you think this is a model that should be replicated, in every other community going forward?
Oh, well, I mean, rally around irrespective of political parties. I mean, you see, democracy actually affords, pluralistic choices. People have a right, to vote for whoever they want to vote for. I mean, when we talk about rallying around does not necessarily have to affect their choice, but rallying around to ensure that there is peace, rallying around to ensure that, you promote, the spirit of participation. No, well, I mean, that's something that we must all encourage. But if that's the idea of rallying around at that, community, then I completely support it, but it is not, but as against just coming to a consensus. No, I mean, democracy should actually enjoy robust ideas. You should actually have people who are able to come in, and also offer their own perspective on how they think things can be done. In the future. So if it's about peace, rallying around for peace, rallying around to ensure that people actually come out to vote and participate and ensure that things are done in the right way, then I support that. But there
All
must
right.
also be that room for for pluralistic ideas.
Well, let's hope that moving forward, all of that would be in place, and the grassroots would not be given this kind of attention that we witnessed in some parts, or if not most parts, in the just concluded elections, local government elections in Lagos. But I have to say thank you again for joining us today on the program and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Now let's shift our attention to the technicality. Just about last week, the Senate and the House of Representatives were looking at passing the electoral amendment bill, where one of the things that was actually looked about was the transmission of election results electronically. That has brought about so much debate, on and offline. And of course, we talked about it last week, and we're going to continue our focus on that. And of course, we have with us earlier on introduced Wale Wande Adalemo. So again, now going back to the transmission of results electronically, I mean,
Yeah.
there's been so much. We talked about a bit of it last week, but let's look at the models. Are there models that can be followed? I mean, some people are saying that you look at the banking sector, if they can, be able to have that, almost straight to the minute, kind of transactions that also can be done, with the elections. But I mean, you are the expert. How possible is that?
So yeah, models can be studied, but there really is no for apple comparison within these models, because the technology is one thing. The technology is built usually from an engineering perspective. You write a flow of how you want this to go, but using that model, the banking system model, and I've had that argument a lot, and the arguments are usually very pedestrian and almost myopic. If you say that the banking system, the model of the banking system is what we need to follow, then the next question we need to ask ourselves is, what drives that model? What's the underlying technology that is used to ensure that your money is safe, it gets to where it needs to get to, and in record time? If we understand that the model behind the banking system is a complex model of hardware, software, security, and technology, then we begin to understand the enormity of the problem we have with INEC. Now, we probably have maybe about 35 to 40 million bank accounts in Nigeria. But for the elections, you're talking of over 100 million Nigerians, everyone voting almost at the same time, aside from states where we have staggered elections. What that means is that you cannot have. I listened to Professor Jega the other day with Cheung, and he made the same points that you really cannot just adopt a technology and say this technology we're going to use, and because it's working. So it's either you decide that INEC decides that we're going to make a software-based system where I can sit down in my home, download an INEC app that is grade A, E5 level security, and I can vote from my phone. It's a secure system and it's all software based, right? Or I'm going to have a hardware based system. You still need to leave your house, go to the machine, do what you want to do, and then the results are transmitted. Or a mix of both, where it is software and hardware based. INEC needs to decide that. And according to what the prof said, it appears that INEC is already doing a bit of testing of some. But what INEC is testing is a system that allows them to publish results very quickly instead of waiting for people to come from all over to get to a collation center.
So quickly clarify this, because there's also that argument, the difference between the publishing and the transmission.
Yeah.
I mean, these two words these two terms kind of confuse people, so to speak. Now, what are the difference? What do you mean to publish, and what does it mean to publish?
Okay.
And what does it mean to transmit? Yeah.
So when we say we publish election results, right? Elections are done manually. People go to ballot papers, they thumbprint on the ballot papers, and then the agents agree on what the results are. It's written in a particular document, and then it is scanned or typed in a laptop and sent by email or by some other means to a collation center. And the collation center put the result together, maybe in an Excel form or some other software, and then it's uploaded on a website where people can now see the results. That's publishing. That's not transmitting of results.
Which is
what a lot of people are talking about, or a lot of people think the bill is about. That's publishing. Now, the danger with publishing is that every step of the way, manipulation can occur. Every step of the way, from the collation of the results, where the problem really is, to the publishing of the results. So some have had the argument that what if we have the original documents where the results were written, if anyone manipulates what is published? What has happened in time is that people have actually exchanged those documents with whatever has been published. However, with transmission.
Okay, just before we go to transmission, let's quickly take a break. And when we come back, we'll get more on transmission of that. Yeah. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We still have with us Wande Adalemo. He is an ICT expert, and he is giving us a quick, brief on what it means to publish election results as well as to transmit election results. So just before we went on the break, you're about to give us go into explaining what it means to transmit
Yes.
election results electronically. But again, just put us again up to speed on that.
So when we say we're transmitting the election results electronically, we're saying it's real time. It is as it is. Let's use the last election that just happened on Saturday. So right now, one of the parties saying that they've won overwhelmingly, right? Anything could have happened with the manual systems that we use, and inducement, violence in some places. But with electronic transmission of results, the result is transmitted as is. So as I am voting, it is transmitted to several devices, several offices, several peoples at the same time. We don't have to wait for several hours to get the results.
What is the guarantee that things that could have happened, doesn't happen in this instance?
So I'll use the American experience where they alleged that the Russians interfered with their results. At the end of the day, it was discovered that it really was nothing like that. Because the truth of the matter is that with electronic transmission of results, once the signals are sent, the original signals have bit rates and encodings. So if anyone does any kind of manipulation, we can go back to the original encoding and say, this is the original thing that was transmitted. When did this come in? We can pick where it was manipulated or hacked or snipped or whatever happens. And that also tells us exactly the kind of technology and security that INEC must put in place. If we go back to the banking analogy, most of our banking software is not local. It's imported. INEC cannot afford to import any technology for our elections. They can't afford to. And it has to involve several agencies. The DSS must understand how the technology works. They must be a part of it. It's almost like an interagency system that is proprietary INEC's and then runs over all the network operators in Nigeria, depending on if they want to go all software or a mixture of hardware and software or all hardware. It has to be proprietary Nigerian because you can't afford to have any interference from anybody from anywhere. If you must have any foreign input into it, it has to be maybe at the advisory level. But at the we have a lot of engineers here who can do that now. So if we don't have that in place before 2023, I don't think there should be a rush. I think whatever INEC is trying now, I wish that we had tried something for these local government elections and then see how it works out and then begin to gradually implement it until we get to a point where we understand what is really required. There's a social aspect to technology as well. Now, technology is never used to change behavior. It is used to bring convenience and enhance already existing behavior. It is over time that behaviors change because of convenience. So when you introduce technology, you don't want to change the way people behave already. People are used to voting, people are used to elections in a particular way. Technology must aid them to do that conveniently. When they do that conveniently, they begin to now ask for other means to do that even better. Can we do this faster? It's convenient now. Can we do this faster? Can we do it more securely? And then we see the results and we apply those results as we go. So it's an ongoing process. But that's an erroneous idea that we can start it now, we are ready now. I think we should disabuse that idea. Yes, we can publish now, and that's fine, because it reduces the wait time for election results.
But we'll still have that delays.
We still have that delay,
because you have some villages that are inaccessible and
yes.
all of that. And then now that we're trying to also introduce diaspora voting, I mean, there have been calls, even people at the Nigerian Diaspora Day celebration, they're saying Nigerians living abroad contribute so much to the economy in terms of the money.
About $48 billion comes in from remittances.
Exactly. So they are also calling for that. And if you look at that call, if you ask me, I think it's valid.
They're Nigerians.
Exactly. So with the fact that you're trying to do, I think this would help, maybe electronically. I think is that part of the component of electronic voting as well? So
I don't think National Assembly
to download an app.
So electronic voting is what they need to participate in the elections. I think the conversations are not, and like the prof said while he was with that conversation, he said it is almost preposterous to talk about transmission without talking about electronic voting. Because one cannot work without the other. Okay. And this is where the entire argument and the confusion is. If you're not talking about electronic voting, don't speak about electronic transmission. If you want to include Nigerians in diaspora, then you must speak about electronic voting. That is when you can now speak about transmission of those results electronically, so that it is transparent an instant. We know exactly, well, we have 20 million Nigerians in diaspora, only about 3 or 4 million of them are voted. We can see, and it's transparent to everybody. But if we say publishing, now then leave them out for now, right? Because then you're dealing with another jurisdiction that has their laws. There's a GDPR there. We have our NDPR here in Nigeria and all those things. But if it's electronic, then we can go ahead with including the diaspora in voting in future elections. So what I'm saying is that we're not ready for the next general elections for this. Maybe in 4 years, after 2023, INEC can begin to now trial this. Without trialing it, without seeing exactly how it works. And in my field, where we build complex systems, we do what we call a proof of concept. If it works, we load the network. Oh, this can take this way. Then we begin to try it until we realize that, okay, the system can work. Even the banking system we're talking about, we still have fraud going on in the banking system. And the banks are grappling with that, dealing with that almost on a daily basis.
So that's where the prevention comes in.
That's where the prevention comes in. And this is where the DSS comes in, intelligence gathering comes in, and all of that.
Okay, so the thing is, with the prevention, if you don't prevent early enough, it means the danger would have been done and all of that.
Now,
so
unlike...
It would even be counterproductive.
Yes, unlike the financial sector, where insurance and all that take care of it, if anything happens, goes wrong in your election, the results and consequences are there.
We all know that. And you have to go to the courts, and then you have to spend a lot of money for forensics, for lawyers.
That's one.
Let's just hope we get it right, before we get to the point where we deploy all of this technology. But I'll just say thank you again for coming on the show and clarifying all of this. One day, Adalimo.
Thank you very much,
ICT expert. Well, that's where we are, but let's now take a look at the most viewed videos on our YouTube channel in the past week.
Returning to the charts after a 2-week exile as the 5th most viewed video is a raid on the home of Sunday Igboho and subsequent arrest of 13 of his aides.
In the course of the exchange, 2 of Igboho's armed men were gunned down, while the rest were subdued and arrested. Only one operative, who was shot by the assailants on his right hand, sustained injury.
Falling 2 places in 4th is the now recounted confession video of a Unilag student to the role she played in the murder of Super TV CEO.
So while I laid on the bed, that's when it came on me to hold the knife, and that's when I managed to stab him with the knife.
Climbing up by a spot in the 3rd from last week is the burial of Prophet TB Joshua. In 2nd and a spot up is the position of Mr. Femi Falana on the legality of night arrest.
Governors are right, perfectly in order in giving this directive. And you can't have a situation where nocturnal arrests are made in a state without, as if you are planning a coup. Take Ibadan, for instance. The invasion of the home of Igboho happened in the night.
While first position is taken by the arrest and extradition to Nigeria of Nnamdi Kanu.
Self-acclaimed leader of the proscribed secessionist indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu has, for your information, been intercepted through the collaborative efforts of the Nigerian intelligence and security services.
And there you go. Those were the most viewed videos on our YouTube channel in the past week. And also, that's where we wrap it up on the show this week. Thank you for watching. I'm Victor Matthias.